WeRiseMag.com.
Coming to you live with another issue of We Rise Mag from WeRiseMag.com. I am boy Rob M here with Lenny Ace Marrow at BPM Studios, Central Islip, New York. What's going on, my man?
How you doing?
Your interview popping off.
Okay.
So where are you from?
You know what? I would say I'm from Central Islip, and I'm proud to say that. A lot of people would expect me to say I'm from the Bronx. Now, I grew up in the Bronx. I left the Bronx when I was in the third, fourth grade, and I came out to Long Island. I went to Nassau County from there, and then Suffolk. And Suffolk is, Central Islip is where I'm from. That's where I rep. I went to high school there. It's where you went to high school. Where you went to high school is where you from. So I went to high school in Central Islip, graduated in '87. So I'm from Central Islip, Suffolk, Long Island.
So where did the name Lenny Ace Marrow come from?
Well, my name is Lenny Marrow. The Ace came in because I just feel, and everybody else I guess will agree, I just feel like I'm that guy. I'm that guy in the studio. I'm the guy that you want in the studio when you're doing something. If things aren't going right, or if a situation, you're looking for some expertise, vocal arrangements or something, I'm that guy. If for some reason I just know or have a good sense of feel of what needs to be done. And like the airplanes back in the days, you know what I'm saying? Like in World War II, they have they call them ace pilots. So I kind of like attach that to my name because I feel like I'm the pilot in the studio. So I'm what the producer and what the executive producers, whatever they're trying to get out of that artist, I feel like it's my job to make sure that happens. So it was real easy for me to put the ace onto the name.
So as a producer or DJ, you say you do both. Who were your influences as you were coming up?
That's really easy. As far as DJing, it would have to be Grandmaster Flash. And, for good reason. He was one of the first to really put it down on wax, be notarized for it. And he also had a bunch of talented MCs with him. Everybody had to know Melly Mel. So, that made him just look even better. But definitely I'd say Grandmaster Flash and Jam Master J, Terminator X, for never making a mistake, ever making a mistake in a show. Both those guys are incredible. Grandmaster Flash would be primarily the guy who influenced me to make me want to buy a set, And when it's funny, the first time I actually got to meet him was at work, because Grandmaster Flash lives in Central Islip.
Yeah,
so he came. Yeah, he actually came into my job, man. And let me tell you something. I've been in this industry for a while. I've sat in studios with a lot of high-end producers, a lot of high-end rappers or singers. And when I saw Grandmaster Flash, I must have jumped up like a little kid, man, and called out his name. Is that Flash? Because this was somebody that I respected. Yeah, this is somebody that I also respected as a kid. You're talking about a guy who's 11, 10 years old, and at that time you're even more impressed by the people, that are doing things as opposed to like when you're, a teenager or an adult. He definitely was a big influence for me, DJing. And as far as production, the second part of your question, hands down, there's only one. There's only one guy that I would have to say that really is on top of his game, and I respect that. And that would be Dr. Dre, and Marley Marl. Those are the two guys that I think are the pioneers of hip hop as far as production.
So what made you want to DJ in the very beginning? Like, where did this all start?
Definitely. Once again, I have to say that name. It started from Grandmaster Flash. actually hearing a performance on a record. You know what I'm saying? Not just a song. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, to hear performance. We're talking about a guy in the studio putting the records on the turntables and saying hit record and just doing this thing. I mean, flash 2 times. You know what I'm saying? Just to hear that on a record. And I mean, you would take the record and think you have to scratch it, but you're playing the record and the scratch is already on it. You know what I'm saying? He's cutting away, and you're hearing this. Yeah, that was definitely my influences on getting started, DJing and everything. He's the one who made me want to even buy a mixer. You know.
Now, how old were you when you first started getting into it, like
Man,
buying your mixer and your turntable?
I think, well, I obviously didn't have no job when I was 11 years old, so my mother was the first one
Christmas
who,
gifts.
you know, it had to be around Christmas time. You have to wait for Christmas, and I tell you, man, it took me a couple years to get that set because the mixer came first, and then the turntable came. But you know, I needed another turntable, so it took me like maybe 2 or 3 years to complete my set. And by that time, I had Mitch-Mac turntables, but it didn't matter as long as that mixer was in the middle, so I can, you know, mix those records. And it was fine, but it took a couple Christmases to put the whole set together. Yeah.
No wrong gifts.
Yeah.
So what do you do for fun? Like, is there any spare time?
Yeah, there's spare time, you know, if whatever spare time I have from work or, you know, just in the studio, I definitely love to spend it with my kids. You know, I have a daughter, she's 12 years old. She's a basketball player, she's tall. You know, my wife is tall too, so we're trying to develop her now to hopefully play Division I basketball. And, you know, girls basketball, she wants to go to Notre Dame. So, you know, we're working on her now. You know, it's hefty in course, you know, running around with them in AAU, you know, and all the different leagues and stuff. But that's usually what I spend my time on now, just developing her game. You know, in order for these kids to be anything in life, you kind of like have to Tiger Woods them or Serena, you know what I'm saying, Williams them. And if you look at their parents, what they did, they spent a lot of time with their kids and those activities. So in order for me to give my daughter a fair chance, that's what I spend most of my spare time on, trying to help prepare for basketball. My wife will stay with my younger one, so she takes up, that's my spare time, pretty much.
So, like, who have you worked with on projects with that people would know? Or just have worked
Well,
with?
you know what? There's guys out there that I would definitely want to put out there first, because these are the guys that molded me to even be in a situation to work with the other artists that you guys may know. And I would say a guy, he's from Central Islip too. His name is Aki. We started a group together, and that's how I, you know what I'm saying, started to fine tune the production parts of, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, just getting into the studio and being involved with the trying to make music part. He was very instrumental in that. And another guy from Brentwood, his name is John Exum. These are guys that I got to do a lot of practicing with, you know, to, you know, develop my skills and everything. And like I said, you know, I grew up in Central Islip. Brentwood's right next door, so you know, you run into, you know, EPMD and different guys. You know, when I moved out here, one of the first persons I met was Craig Mack. And Craig Mack, he worked at Hess gas station, and I used to come up there to get gas all the time. He was this dude who could rap. It was like, yo, you know, he was always like, you know, he was a friendly dude, you know. So we hung out with him a couple of times. As far as guys that you would know in the industry that I have worked with and had the pleasure of working with, definitely Craig Mack. You know, Craig Mack was the guy who actually got me kind of started. We went into the studio and we did a couple of songs, and Craig had this unbelievable talent at just wordplay. And you know, I used to see him walking all up and down the streets, you know, and he had this record out when he was hanging out with EPMD called Get Retarded, and it was on Sleeping Bag Records. And once that record came out and we were hearing it on the radio, I had already taken a job working in a recording studio out here on Long Island, Legend Studios, very historical studio out here for a lot of bands and stuff. And I was working at this studio as the first hip-hop engineer. And I would see Craig, always still walking up and down Islip Avenue. I'm like, yo, he's got this record out, but this guy's still walking up and down, 111. So I, said to him one day, I was like, yo, man, what's really going on with your situation and this deal? And it really wasn't panning out the way he wanted it to. And I had a situation at the studio that I was at to where I can get some time. So I talked to the owner there, and I was like, yo, let's, give me an opportunity to put this guy in the studio late nights after, everyone was going home. And I went into the studio with this guy, Craig Mack, man, and we came out with like 3 or 4 songs. And Alvin Toney from Wine Dance, Alvin Toney, Snap the Necks, Cash and Large Checks. He took the demo and ran with it, and deals just started popping off the table. I just couldn't believe that something like that would take off so quick. Def Jam, Relativity, Eric and Paris wanted to sign him, and Uptown wanted to sign Uptown MCA, and that's who he eventually wound up signing with. And Puff Daddy, that's the guy who kind of ran that situation. It all turned out pretty good, Puffy winded up getting his own deal. You guys saw the movie Notorious, so that story is pretty much relatively all true. Once he got his deal with Arista, Craig went over, and he was the first artist out on that. And that was the first artist I worked with. And of course, being in that Bad Boy umbrella, you work with Puffy. I worked with Biggie Smalls. I've worked with Heavy D, Mark Morales. Worked on numerous projects with a lot of engineers. I've worked on Mary stuff. I've worked on a couple of songs, even with rock and roll people. Pat Benatar, I got to sit on sessions with her. So I got to work with a couple people out there that I was really inspired by, especially seeing their past work. We've had Paris Smith up in here. I've tried to work with Grandmaster Flash, being that he was my mentor and got me started, but Flash doesn't like to pay. I'm gonna put you out there, Flash. You know what I'm saying? He likes to, get his work for free. You know what I'm saying? Hey, he's legendary. I guess he could do that, but I'm not legendary. I need a legendary check.
What was your favorite project you've been involved with? Like the one you're either most proud of, had the most success, you just enjoyed the most?
Some of the projects that I had the most fun on projects that probably didn't even see daylight.
Yeah? So what would you say is your greatest accomplishment as DJ/producer or both?
I don't think that I've accomplished it yet, honestly. Okay. For me to say my greatest accomplishment would kind of be like, saying that your career's over, which one is the best?
Well, so far.
So far, and definitely my greatest accomplishment would have been the Craig Mack project, because that went, the single went platinum. I produced a song that was on the flip side of the Flavor in the Air. So, and then the album went gold. So, just having a plaque from your very first project coming out the gate was definitely something that it's definitely
step in the right direction, to say the least.
So, but I always feel like, like I can still score 100 points. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to it.
So who would you like to work with in the future? Is any artists you have your eyes on, or producers?
Joel Ortiz. I'd love to work with him as far as a rapper. Definitely really feeling his wordplay, And I'm going to say, I don't care what anybody says, he's the best Puerto Rican rapper. He's the best big pun too. Some people may not feel that, but that's what I'm saying. And if it was anybody that I can go way, way back in the days and work with, it would be Stevie Wonder. He's the best musician. artists that I've ever done, seen in my whole life. That's my favorite out of anybody, Stevie Wonder.
So what advice would you give to like upcoming producers, DJs to get their foot in the door or start heading in the right direction?
To learn your craft, whatever it is, learn your craft to the fullest. And that advice would go for, like I see, you're talking about how you have your studio and you do Pro Tools and all that, I would tell you the same thing, man. Learn your craft. That's what I would say. And respect it and spend time in it. And you will see positive results.
And there you have it, another We Rise Mag exclusive with Lenny Ace Marrow, BPM Studios.
And I'd like to thank y'all for sitting down and interviewing me. 9 out of 10 times you don't really see the guy who mixes the songs and the guy who masters the songs being interviewed. So it was a pleasure to be interviewed by you guys. I respect that. Usually I'm sitting behind the boards and I'm waiting for the artists to get interviewed until when they're done, then we get back to work. But it's good to see that people are respecting what the mixer and the mastering guys do to like the DJ. And it's time to start showing the mixing guys and the guys who sit behind the board some love. And I appreciate that.
We appreciate what you have to.
Definitely. All right.
Good night.
WeRiseMag.com.